Holes are one of the essential components of a pinball table. They temporarily hold the ball to perform actions and later return the ball onto the playfield, or perhaps launch vertically into something for transport. A ball hole does not necessarily need to be an actual hole in my case. Anything that could capture and release a ball is good enough equivalent for me. But as a start, an actual hole would be nice. The first thing I will use is an area 3D node with a cylinder shape inside it. The area will only look for balls that pass through it, and then lock it in place when it does happen. The method of locking is to disable the simulation, or freeze, the ball and use the remote transform node to keep it in place relative to the hole. And that's about it for the functional part of the setup and scene. So why do I choose this over making a physical hole? Mainly reliability and convenience. I do not like the idea of many triangles being created in a table mesh as more holes are being cut, and I do not want to deal with recreating a whole table mesh if I had to adjust the holes' locations. Sure, I could just use a combination of CSG nodes and not think too much about it, but even if the triangle count weren't an issue, fast-moving balls will not enter and tend to jump after, if not jump over the hole. On the actual machines, there's usually something like a scoop or deflector above these that ensure the ball will enter the hole and stay put. I'd like to rely less on physics and keep things more predictable. I did say an actual hole would be nice, so how could I at least make one visibly and not only use an area node? I'll be using simple pieces of mesh and materials using stencils to get the effect of a hole. The order and number is important for the material and stencil. Most of the time the table surface will be cut through, but the table material does not have to worry about being modified. I need a hole puncher and a backdrop. The hole puncher mesh, which is a circle, is responsible for designating a region on screen where the backdrop could draw by writing a stencil value, in this case 1. The backdrop, which for now is an inverted cylinder primitive, renders after everything else normally gets drawn, will only render if it knows is obscured by something else using inverted depth tests, and it has compared for the same stencil value, which is 1. To make this a little nicer, I have added a ring to break up the harsh visual boundary between the surface and hole. Because the puncher is still writing its depth to the screen, the ball that may enter the hole will look like it is being cut away as it goes down. You may not notice since it's likely we're going to view this from such a far distance anyways, but it bothers me, so I want to fix this. Let me magnify the problem. A fix to this would be to allow each ball to have 2 passes of rendering. The first being the standard setup you always have been seeing, and the second one is reading the stencil and running on top with a similar material, but with the added darkening effect for how deep it is. Now that there is a hole, I should find a way to make the ball fall into it since it appears to be floating after it's being captured. That itself is easy to restore by code. Just simulate the gravity along an axis aligned to the hole. And I should also let it get jostled around after entering using the dimensions of the hole as its limits, since the hole is usually bigger than the ball, and make it spin as it slides across the limits. The moment the hole receives the signal to release the ball, I could animate the delay of it resurfacing so that it looks nicer getting released instead of just popping out. Immediately after the release, I can make it shoot out with an initial rolling velocity or enter a predetermined path that would lead to a different location. Now this whole time, I really did not need to use an actual hole. Just the functionality of capture and release could be themed in many different ways. Back to the table I created last video, I have made the playfield shape accommodate for the holes to allow for nicer placements. There are 3 spots I would like to place it in. 1 for the ball spawn, and 2 for scoring or other uses. The spawn hole creates a ball immediately in its possession and pushes it out. This hole is set to not accept or let sink any balls since it is in the path of the plunger lane. This is not necessary here as originally the ball was created in plain sight, but the use case of bringing in a new ball to the table is there. The one in the upper right contains a timer node in it. As the ball is considered sunk in the hole, points are given and a signal is sent out to the timer to start. After the timer finishes, it too will send out a signal back to the hole to tell it to finally release the ball. And lastly, the one in the middle left of the playfield will execute a random reward. Upon the ball entering, a signal will sent out to sort of spin the wheel to pop up and swap between outcomes over time. Once it finishes and actually gives its reward, it will disappear and restore the ball back onto the playfield. So far, nothing too complex has been added to this table, but a lot of options are now available with this addition since it allows for a temporary pause in gameplay, giving the player a mini break while the game does its thing it needs to do. I am not sure if this playfield layout will be expanded upon to allow eventual theming. Since the main point of it is for demonstration, this table may not even stick around. There is still more elements to be added in the future, as there are intentional empty spots still left in this layout. Before I finally close this video, I'd like to announce that I have a Patreon. Well, I had it for a while, but I feel comfortable enough to publicly share it. Currently it only has one option, just basic support. There is nothing special to it other than plain donation. The idea seems cool to receive support from my work, or just sharing my experiences as I develop. It will also help me focus more rather than try to pursue many options with uncertainty. Did you like this video format or one of the previous two video formats? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you next time.